The Ultramarines require our aid. We shall honour our shared gene-sire in glorious combat. To the surface, my brothers. Let us be their salvation for the Primarch.
How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dan School here again today, back once again with another look at Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. This week it's issue 18. So let's take a look inside this issue. This week we got, with the magazine, this is the lowest value issue so far if you break it down into stuff that GW actually sell. So we got 2 pots of paint. They're £2.55 each, that's £5.10 for the issue, paying £7.99 for the magazine. So therefore you're paying £2.89 over the odds, if my calculations are right, of course. But you get this as well. This is really nice. This is a battle mat, and it's 22 inches by 34 inches. So it's a little bit bigger than a Kill Team battle mat. I'll just move it across the screen so you can get an idea of the size. And it's double-sided. One side is terrain free. That's this side, the side you've just seen. Then the other side has got some craters in and bits of riser pattern ruins and some battlefield accessories, which you can buy separately from Games Workshop. If I was to put a value on this, I'd say it's worth at least £5, and that's conservative, I'd say. A conservative pricing. If you were to sell that on eBay, you could get at least £5 for it. If you didn't want this, I'd recommend still getting the magazine, get the paints, sell this, you make about £5 on it. If you charge for the shipping, you definitely will. But if you do free shipping, like a generous person, you can get that in an A4 envelope and send it as a large letter. It's only going to cost you £1, £2, something like that. I'm not entirely sure what a large letter costs in the UK these days. But yeah, you can send that, and then you've still made money back on the magazine. More money than the cost of the magazine, less the paints. So I'd say it's still a valuable magazine, just on the basis of what's in it. I'm going to drop this down on the floor now. Get ready for the noise. Fantastic. Oh, that was lovely, that. I didn't bend any corners or anything bad looks of it either. But what's inside the magazine? That's another thing that adds to the value of the magazine for me. This is a lore-rich magazine. You get 10 pages of lore about the Silver Templars and Hellblasters and various other things. I'll just talk you through the introduction to the Silver Templars here. Created from the gene seed of the returned Primarch Robute Guilliman, the Silver Templars were among the first of the Primaris chapters created in the Ultima founding. They are skilled duelists who possess fierce determination to prove themselves in combat. And then onto the little blurb here. So the chapter name, the summary if you will. Chapter name is the Silver Templars. Homeworld Novaris, Primarch Robute Guilliman. Chapter master Achilleos Zanaris. Specialisms dueling and weapons mastery. Codex adherence 100%, and motto focus and fury. And then it gives you a nice little bit of fluff here with a lovely painted up Silver Templar there. A miniature painted in Silver Templar colours, facing off against some Death Guard dude. It gives you the chapter symbol there. And onto a summary of the colours that you'll see across all Space Marine chapters. There's a few exceptions, the ones that don't quite adhere to the Codex typically. But these are the markings of the first company. They wear white. Second company wear yellow, or gold rather. Third company red, green, blah, 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 going down the list. The Silver Templars wear it on the knee pad. A lot of chapters rather, will wear it on the shoulder trim of their armour, but for the Silver Templars, they wear the colour on the knee pad. So this is a third company Marine from the 6th squad. If you can see I'll come a bit closer, so hopefully you can see that there. That's the Roman numeral 6, so it's the 6th squad of the 3rd company. That Marine, and then it gives you battlefield roles, a summary there. I think we've seen a little bit of that in a previous issue, but it's always nice just to fill a bit of space and go into a bit more detail, descriptive detail here on the sort of units that will appear in those battlefield roles. And then it goes on to explain ranks on this page and the markings of the ranks. So if you did want to paint Silver Templars, which You can't quite yet because we don't have any yellow paint, but you can do the bulk of the colour because we have now a silver paint, we have a black paint, we have a gold paint, and we also have a green paint, so you can do a green knee pad if you wanted to. We also have a red paint which comes with this issue handily, so you could do Silver Templars now. You might want to pop out and buy yourself a pot of Avalanche Sunset Yellow or something like that if you were desperate to get the shoulder pads painted right away. But further down the line we might get a yellow paint. And then it gives us a bit of information here about bolt weapons. The bolt weapon is the sort of workhorse of Imperial Space Marine forces in particular, but certain other Imperial factions have access to bolt weapons like the Imperial Guard to a certain extent. And it tells us about a few different types of bolt weapon. There are more than this in existence. Yeah, it just gives us a core sort of 7 bolt weapons. So there's a bolt pistol, bolt gun, bolt rifle, storm bolter, heavy bolter, combi bolter, assault bolter. The assault bolter is the one that the intercessors carry, which we've had fluff for in a previous issue, leading me on to Hellblasters that came on the same sprue as intercessors, but we've not had any fluff for yet. So it's good to get this fluff in here in this magazine, and it tells us that they're basically the Hellblasters are Marines picked for Hellblaster squads because they're the best marksmen and the most likely to use these sacred plasma weapons really well. And then it moves on to a bit of lore concerning the events that are being covered in the narrative of the battles we're facing here. It tells us about the relief of Lysius, a planet called Lysius, and it's actually how the... Sorry, I was a little mixed up. I've been reading this right before filming because I didn't get a chance to read it in work today. So it's actually telling us about how the Silver Templars first came into contact with the Ultramarines on this planet of Lysius. The Ultramarines were defending this planet when the Death Guard invaded, made planetfall the Death Guard, and they blockaded the planet with their battle barges and stuff. And then they were hounding the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines were left defending one final fortress. Basically, they were on the last legs, the Ultramarines. And just in the nick of time, the Silver Templars arrived. And that bit of fluff that I read to you in the intro of the video is what's contained here. It's just like the call to arms of one Lieutenant Mickanus, Silver Templar. So yeah, that's the call to arms of him to his battle brothers. And then onto the painting section. So onto the painting section, like I said, there's no build section in this issue because we don't have anything to build. So we've got 3 newish paints here. We're going to go over all of the miniatures by the looks of it that we've got so far with one of these 3 paints, which is fantastic. It means we've got 6 pages of painting, of a painting guide. And it really, just this red colour, it really brings out the miniatures to makes them pop a lot more. It's what they call a spot colour on miniatures, and it can unify a force that maybe didn't look quite that unified before. The Ultramarines looked unified anyway because they're all wearing the same colour armour and the same trim and everything like that. But if say you were to introduce some Imperial Guard allies, then using this Mephiston red as a spot colour on them as well, even if they had black armour, it'd give you a unified feel to the forces. So that's a thought for the future for you. So the red is on a lot of the Ultramarine miniatures, if not all of them. There's purity seals, there's helmets picked out, there's eye lenses on the helmets, there's some of the rebreather equipment on the Reavers helmets, and some red on the grenades and stuff like that. It's on all sorts of parts of the miniatures. There's a bit of grey used, Mechanicus standard grey on the bases, on the rubble on the bases of the aggressors. And then onto the Death Guard. There's red used, which I think they showed us the red on previous issues, but they are showing us a bit of red here as well on some of the cloth work of the Death Guard. And the Blight Hauler's eye. Onto, again, more cloth work, and the eye of the Nurgling, interestingly. So it's a cool little detail for you. And then you turn the page and it tells you where it wants a Rakarth flesh. Interestingly, they're using the Rakarth flesh as a white effectively in this, because they're telling you to paint the ultramarine symbols that are all over Lieutenant Calcius in Rakarth Flesh. Now, white can be a difficult colour to paint, and typically players of Games Workshop games will often tell you to use a colour called Celestial Grey to paint white. It's not actually white, obviously, as the name indicates, it's a grey. So using something that's not quite white can actually give you a better result when painting white. So Rakarth Flesh works in that way as well. It's got a slight pinkish tone to it, where Celestial Grey's got a slight bluish tone, so it'll even make the red look very warm against the white, as it's supposed to be, look very warm against the cool blue armour of the Ultramarines. And then there's a few other areas that need Rakarth Flesh. There's some bones on the relics, on the Aggressor's belts and stuff like that, and on the Purity seals as well. And then they're starting to paint the bony shards that are coming out of the Death Guard Plague Marines now. They're starting to paint them in Rakarth Flesh as well. Turning the page, last page here now. A few little maggots crawling over the skin of the Poxwalkers, pick them out. And yeah, it makes them look really nice. So that's a pretty nice looking force there. When you see them on the battle mat here laid out as well, it's quite nice looking, and especially when you put them with the scenery, the containers and that we've got so far. What have we got next? We've got 3 pages really of rules, 2 of which are scenario, so I'll talk about them briefly. So there's the Siege scenario, which you'll have 3 Plague Marines, Mephitic Blighthauler, Biologist Putrefier for the Death Guard. Space Marines have 5 Intercessors, Primaris Librarian and 2 Hellblasters. It's an objective game, similar to the one that we played last week actually. I think the only difference is there's a slightly different spread of points concerning your objectives. So, how to win. The Death Guard player can get 1 victory point when they control their own objective. For each enemy unit they eliminate, you get 1 victory point, and control the Space Marine objective, 2 victory points. So I think last week it was 3 victory points for controlling the objective, and 1 for each unit you took out. Whereas this week, if you take out the enemy unit, you get 2. If you take out an enemy unit, you get 1, the same. Control an objective, control your objective, you get 1, and control the opponent's objective, you get 2. So it's just, effectively it's the same scenario, just with slightly different victory conditions, which is always interesting to test out. You might have been struggling as the Space Marine player, for argument's sake, last week, but with the slight change of victory conditions, it may make it slightly easier for you to seal victory for yourselves. So we've had the Siege scenario, now we've got Clear. The Clear scenario has a different deployment zone for us. The last scenario had 3-inch deployment zone, the same as was introduced to us last week, but this time we've got a 7-inch triangle, 7 by 7. You could work out the length of that. If I still knew trigonometry, I'd work it out for you, but I don't know, I've forgotten all that. So 7 by 7 inch right angle triangle, I'm sure that's pretty easy to do as well. But yeah, we've got that deployment zone instead of the 3-inch across the edge of the board there. And we're using 3 Plague Marines, 12 Poxwalkers, a Foul Blightspawn, 5 Intercessors, Lieutenant Calcius and 2 Hellblasters. What the Ultramarines want to do in this scenario is clear the deck and clear the Honour of Ultramar of any Death Guard. So the target for the Space Marines is to destroy all Death Guard forces, and the target for the Death Guard is to have at least one remaining model on the battlefield after turn 6, after 6 battle rounds, or at the end of the 6th battle round. So although that may seem slightly weighted in the Ultramarines' favour, perhaps. No, it doesn't really. The durability of the Death Guard really makes up for, and the high number of Poxwalkers they've got really makes up for any advantage the Space Marines have, I'd say there. There is 2 Hellblasters, so they've got a pretty reliable way of taking out the Plague Marines. But if you can keep the Foul Blightspawn alive and hiding behind the containers and stuff like that, make use of the terrain, you've got a really good chance there as the Death Guard player of winning that every time. But with the battlefield being so small, I guess your opponent will get to you. So you can't hide forever. At some point they're going to charge you, and you're not going to be able to hide, but then it's about using your units to drag the Space Marine player to different areas of the battlefield. And yeah, they're the two scenarios. So two pretty good sounding scenarios there. And finally, we get the Mephitic Blight Hauler datasheet on this page. And a nice little quote from Mortarion before the invasion of Ultramar.
For our vision, they condemned us for the sin of seeing clearly what our father, their precious emperor, had become. They called us traitor and cast us out. But now, my sons, now there shall be a reckoning.
That's my Mortarion voice for you. And that page is, well, it's a little blank page. That's what we always get, by the way, on the back of the data sheets, if I've never shown you that before. It's just like a shades of green bit of artwork. It's quite cool, really. And then onto this, Corvon 2. So from issue 21, the battle goes planet side. So then 20 will likely be narratively the last issue on the Honor of Ultramar, as it sounds a lot like the Honor of Ultramar and the Death Guard ship attached to it are going to crash into the planet, and then you're going to have to fight over the larger battle map that we've now got. And they're showing us here the terrain in 3D that is actually printed on the battle map. So it looks like we're getting some of the plasma relay pipes, I think they're called, the sector, the riser pattern ruins, and some of the scatter terrain battlefield accessories terrain set that I don't think is available from Games Workshop anymore, but it's a nice little set. I could be wrong, it might still be available. It's a nice little set though. And then it says, oh, so here we go. It gives you a brief introduction as to why you're planetside now. On the smog-shrouded surface of Corvon 2, the forces of the Death Guard assault the planet. The planet's few remaining defenders. The invaders have captured many foundries and factories, and the planet is covered in countless horrors. The Ultramarines are en route to break the Death Guard blockade. Battle Brothers board their drop pods and transports, ready to launch into the grimy surface to counterattack the Death Guard ground forces. The men and women of Corvon 2 pray to the Emperor to be saved from the horrors attacking them. The Ultramarines will answer their prayers because the Ultramarines are superheroes. Anyway, next issue we're getting the Death Guard character in Terminator armour. What's his name again? Lord... What is his name again? Lord Felthius and his cohort of 3 Death Guard Terminators, which is exciting for me because there's so much detail on those minis. Lord Felthius has got a bit of a goofy face, but if you really want to change that, you can just do a head swap with one of the miniatures we've got so far. I've still got a few unattached helmets on my easy to build Plague Marines, so maybe I could do a head swap with one of them if I wanted to and give him, I think I've got a helmet with the grill on that I could stick on there, just cut the spike off the top, squeeze it into underneath the Terminator armour. I think that'll work quite well. And then issue 20, we're getting the final shipping container thingy. Hopefully by issue 20 they'll tell us how to paint the barrels as well. I think that's just a standard colour scheme that they use on the Games Workshop website actually, so maybe they're going to tell us to paint them Mephiston red. So that's it. A good issue overall, despite the fact that at first it seems like not a great value issue. Personally I think it's a great value issue. I'd give it a monetary value of at least £10. So you're saving a couple of quid. But the lore in the issue really makes up for the lack of value when you're just looking at the pots of paint. That's my thoughts on it, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you on the battlefield.